Okay, YouTube, I'm going to show you how to repair gouges and scratches on your wood floors. Now, I did go to Ace Hardware. You can get this stuff a lot cheaper at Walmart. This is a 120 grit sandpaper. So it's kind of a fine 120. And then you need a wood repair kit. You don't need, if you got bigger dents and gashes, you can use a wood filler, but this is basically like a plastic fill, and then it has the dye sticks. Now I will tell you that light color dye is a lot darker than it actually appears to be. You'll see when I show you on the wood that I'm using. It does have its own little spatula, but I do recommend you get your own putty knife. And when you open that thing, open it gently, have some patience, and you can reuse the package. It actually clicks together. Excuse me. And then you need a flame, something to heat up the plastic sticks. And that's not what's recommended. That's the way I've always done it. This one, I think they sell at Walmart for 88 cents. So you can get one of those. And also, the putty knives you can buy, I believe, at Walmart for a lot less than I paid. These are a two-piece kit. I think it was $3, but they probably sell them for 99 cents a piece at Walmart or Home Depot. I live on the island. The population's not that great here, so I understand they need to elevate the prices so that they can stay in business. So what cost me about $15 for the kit, you could get for under 10 at Walmart. Here's some painter's tape. This stuff's safe. You can put it on the floor. When you peel it back, it's not going to remove any finish or any poly. That's polyurethane. That's the coating they put down. And I did buy some shims, just the cheapest piece of woods I could get, or wood. And this is for demonstration purposes only. I am going to be in the field on Monday doing a couple repairs, so I'm going to try and incorporate that into a video and show you. I don't typically do a lot of repairs. These are long-term customers, and they've had some sort of accident, grandchildren. The one I'm doing tomorrow, I think he threw a ball across the room and a lamp fell and made an indention, a gouge. So there's everything. Like I said, this is Ace Hardware if you want to get the exact same stuff. Or I would recommend Home Depot, Menards, Walmart, whatever your local home repair shop is. And you can save a lot of money, probably under 10 bucks for everything here. And it is, sometimes people will use an 80 grit sandpaper first to bring down if you're using wood filler. Now, bigger gashes or bigger holes, you want to use a wood filler, and then you would need the 80 grit to sand. Once it's smooth, you want to finish it with the 120 grit. But in this case, we're just doing relatively minor repairs. These happen throughout a lot of homes. A lot of my property management companies run into these and ask if I can fix them. I took the scissors and I sliced up the 120 grit sandpaper into 4 slices. I've got the matching color, or as close as you can get, the white plastic fill stick, and then the dye stick. And like I was saying, if you're very careful, and any, carpet cleaning, carpet repair, any repairs, mechanics, you have to have patience. You see, pop it, click it, you can reuse it. So rather than cut this out and have a bunch of stuff laying around, you basically have the packaging. So always take your time when you're doing any type of trade work. You can see here I put a scratch, pretty deep one, in this piece of wood. You can see the angle. You may have these in your own home if you're not one of my regular subscribers and you happen to come across this video. Then here's the gouges. This is basically what I'll be fixing on Monday in a client's home, one of them. And that's where the lamp fell and the base hit it and it just bounced around and it created dents like that. So let me clear the way. And again, I'm going to try and use that tripod. I'll end up shifting a little bit. The actual film lens was down on the bottom, so I'll flip it over in a minute. But here you want to take your tape and you want to tape up just around the other parts of the floor that are not damaged. I know in the past, years ago, I used to do a lot of repairs on carpet, wood, you name it. And I know in the past, some of my co-parts never used tape on wood floors. They would just take either wood filler or the plastic filler and just spread it around and then putty knife off, the balance, and then sand it evenly. But the problem with that is if you're not going to put another coat of poly on, you don't want to strip the poly off the surrounding areas, because then when the light hits it, you can see where the repair was done. So it's best just to put the tape on there, and the tape peels right off. There you go. I think I covered a small part. We'll find out in the end, but regardless, this is just for demonstration purposes. I'll show you the real McCoy tomorrow. And so I need to tape up the one with the scratch on it. So bear with me. Let's get that taped up, and then I'll let you know what's next. Okay, we got our prep done. Again, ladies and gentlemen, patience. Now here's the stick. And the problem with these, you can go on the sides, you can go straight on. I'll show you. It never really, it's not soft enough. It's soft enough to actually penetrate into the groove the proper way. What it does is a little bit comes off, and then when it gets down to a good point, you can see it starts spreading it more on the outside of the groove. This is where people get frustrated with these kits. And the directions do not say anything about heating these up. In fact, disclaimer, it says they're flammable, so, do as they say, not as I do, or do it at your own risk like I am. But I have always, unless they put some new component in it in the future, I never have them flame up or burst or anything. And I'll show you. It's just so much easier. It's almost like melting a candle, and you can melt it down into the groove. Give it a couple seconds, it starts to putty up, and then just use your putty knife and take the top off. You see what I mean? Terrible, right? So you bought the kit, now you're pissed off, it doesn't look right. When you put the stain over it, it actually illuminates the cut or the scratch worse than it was before. So here you go. Always be careful using any flame source. I'll heat this up, and you see how it starts to drip? And bear with me, because I'm trying to do this as well as stare at the camera to make sure that I have the correct framing so that you can see what I'm doing. Oh, and the other thing is, don't worry about the black soot that comes down there. That it remains on the surface, and then when you putty knife it, you'll see it just disappears. So kind of go with the grain, get it in there as deep as you can. You can always do a second application, or what I'll do, I'll take it from the putty knife, like this extra piece if it's soft, and I'll just reapply it to the gaps. You can even use your finger if you feel like you can do a better job pressing it in. As it does get kind of like a putty, then you don't have to worry, because you're going to put a little sanding finish on it. So you want to get it on the surface as best you can. Always go with the grain of the wood. It's a good idea to have something to wipe off your putty knife if you're going to do additional applications. I don't have anything available to wipe it off right here. But you can see it's so much smoother, it's filled the crack. And then we'll take the tape off in a moment, or what I'll do first is I'll kind of sand the area while I have the tape on it. What will happen though is the tape, it has a actual depth to it. So after you sand your area, you will notice that the edges rise a little bit above the flooring. And you don't want to leave that. What you want to do is be real careful, peel the tape back, and just kind of go real gently across the surface and level it out with the floor. For demonstration purposes here, there's no polyurethane on these pieces of wood shims. So when I do the finishing product, I'll probably just speed it up and I'll go across the entire board. So let's take a look. Just gently, even though it doesn't remove finish, just still be gentle. Gently pull it back. All right. So you can see it is a little darker than the rest of the wood, but again, you can find sticks that match your wood. Plus, this is a very natural piece of wood. Has actually no stain on it whatsoever. And with the stain sticks, you can touch up, and if you see I'm going with the grain, you want to level it out even more. Watch how perfect this is. Now at this point I could walk away, but for demonstration purposes I will use the stain pen to show you that the plastic filler does accept the stain. And again, I'm not trying to do this 100% perfect. I'm doing this for demonstration purposes. Again, you want to be patient. Take your time. You could even put another coat on there. And the caps don't really indicate the true color. I'll test this one, and boy, it's twice as dark. But if you were going to try to match the wood grains on your floor, if you have mahogany or a dark walnut, even oaks that have honey colors, you can find the right markers, and then you just want to match or follow the grain. You could turn the pen on the sharp side. You see, it is a darker stain than this natural wood. And of course, the stain dries quick. It is sandable. So we'll have a look at it here in a minute. And again, if I was on real floor, I would be gently going with one finger in the center of the sandpaper, just down the line, down the groove, so that I don't remove the poly. I know a lot of guys, or co-parts that I used to work with when I used to do a lot of these type of quick repairs, will use one of those green scouring pads that you wash dishes with. And that doesn't take off any of the poly or anything. It's not really an aggressive sandpaper, so you could do that as well. You always want to have something to clean off your putty knife if you're going to go to the next step. I don't have anything available, so I'm going to get it as clean as I can. Again, this is for demonstration purposes. Now, the job that I'm doing tomorrow, the gouge like this here from the lamp that fell on the floor, it looks almost identical to this. And I had cleaned her carpets the other day, 14 rooms to be exact. Oh my goodness, big house. And I happened to notice it, and she said she was gonna pay somebody to cut the board out. And I've done that too. That's a pretty tricky method as far as getting it out. But here's the trick again. You want to heat it up, fill it up. I'll let this one run. You can watch what happens, and I'll just kind of talk to you as we go along. The actual way to replace a board, you find the board, you tape it off with the blue painter's tape right along the edges of the board itself. And then you take a drill and you would actually drill 3 tiny holes at the narrow ends, the longer ends. And you take a skill saw and you go straight across the board from hole to hole. Now this is inside the board. You're not on the outside where it meets flush with the other boards. And then you just take a pry bar and you pick out the boards from the center. What this does is it leaves the circumference with just the pieces of boards from the tongue and groove. If you've ever seen how they lay wood floor, it has a groove and a tongue that pops together. So a repair where they're going to replace a board and not cut it out means that you're going to have to dismantle all the wood, and sometimes it's glued, stapled, and whatnot. So what happens is you pick that out, you remove it from the tongue and groove, and then you cut a piece where you have one side, you leave the tongue to pop back in. Then you put like a carpenter's glue or liquid nails down and you slide the board into the tongue and then you pop it down in place. And I've done that many times. I'm not willing to do that. It takes too much time. It would cost her a fortune. But opposed to what they were going to charge her, I think they wanted $900 or something to, they were probably going to use wood filler. I'm not sure. But anyway, this method should work fine. I've done these many times in the past and have gone back to homes, and you'd never know. It's still in place. And unless I got down there and pointed it out, you wouldn't see the difference at all. So this is something you can do yourself at home. It's very easy, less than $10. My only advice to you is to be very patient. And then unlike me, you know, since I'm filming, I don't have the time to really clean this off. I should have used the other knife on this one, but I'll get me an area that's smooth enough just for demonstration purposes to show you. I'm just basically going to surface this. And sometimes with a dirty putty knife, you'll get an indention. I'm going to use a new piece of sandpaper. And actually, the longer you could let it dry, make sure it dries down firm, and then do this, you'll get a better finished product than I will here. Just be real careful with the sandpaper, like I said. When you see me remove the tape and sand over the entire board, that's not what you want to do. You want to just go along or around the repair. And if you're using a wood filler, and that's very simple too, maybe I'll do a demonstration of that in the future. You buy the wood filler that matches, it comes in a tube that matches your, if you have walnut floors, you buy walnut, and you put the filler in. You do the exact same thing I'm doing here, but you apply the filler, which is almost like sawdust and glue. And you smooth it out, you go over it. Obviously, you let it dry longer. And then you sandpaper. I used to wait maybe 2 hours with the product I used, and then I just take the sandpaper. And that's where you want to use the 80 grit sandpaper first to bring it down to the level with the surface. And then to finish it, you want to use the 120, and that smooths it out. And then when you peel the tape back, you are going to see a little above the surface of the floor, and that's where you want to just sand with the 120, get it smooth. And in that case, I sand around the area, and then they sell a polyurethane that is a wipe-on. I'm sure your hardware store or Amazon you can find. It's just a polyurethane floor coating that you can wipe on. And so I would have that. It looks like a little can of turpentine or whatever, and you just wipe that on with a rag, smooth it out with I used, I think, microfiber cloths, and let it cure, and boom, you're back in business. And those type of repairs with the wood filler, they really, really look professional. And again, it depends on the gouge. Like these small scratches and gouges, the wood filler's probably bringing a cannon to a gunfight. It's just overkill, not really needed. And I know a lot of guys that carry these kits with them, just the pens and the plastics. You can see how that's filled there. And if they do any damage with their equipment, they go in and they just basically rub the putty across and then rub the color match stain, walk away and hope nobody sees it. And I do not recommend that. Karma is you know what, and there'll come a time where you might damage someone's floors and they're going to hold you responsible. And if you didn't tell them, they're not going to trust you to do the repair yourself. If they were the ones that discovered it, or maybe lots of people have video in their home and they play back the video and they see that you're crouched down looking at an area where maybe you dropped your sprayer or a piece of equipment, and they see what you did in the first place. And the fact that you were dishonest, you'll never have that customer again. And trust me, that customer will tell 10 people. Each one of those people will tell 10. Each one of those will tell 10, and eventually your phone will stop ringing. So bear that in mind. If you do damage something, now you've got the tools to fix it and the know-how. Very, very simple. I'm sure there's lots of other videos on YouTube that are helpful, not just mine. You can see there, it's pretty smooth. See from the surface. And remember, this putty's not an exact match. This is natural wood. You can get closer. Yeah, and there's that spot that I covered with the tape. So we missed that, but that's okay. So again, I digress. I would definitely recommend honesty, integrity, good communication skills. And also, I've always told all of my followers that are getting into the business or thinking of getting into the business, you definitely want to carry general liability insurance if you're working in someone's home. It's usually their biggest investment. I recommend about $300,000 in insurance. And a company called Hiscox, Hiscox, Hiscox insurance. You can go online. You can do everything online to get signed up. It's about, I'm not sure what it is now, but when I did it, I'm only paying, I think, about $40 a month for $300,000 of general liability. So if you're paying $50 a month for it, it's peace of mind. You definitely want it. Something happens in a customer's house, $300,000 is probably plenty to take care of any damage we could do on the low moisture side of carpet cleaning. Truck mount, you may want to have a little bit more. I've seen some units catch fire parked in a carport and burn half the house down, so be wary. I'll clean up my mess, and that's it for now. Like I said, I think Monday I'm going to do the repair for my client in between jobs. I'll try and film that. She has walnut colored floors, very beautiful. And I'll show you how the repair works. You'll see me do exactly what I've done here, just probably a lot slower pace, a lot more detail, a lot more evenly taping. The key is using the lighter to melt the filler. So much easier. I hope this helps someone out there. If it did, please give it a thumbs up. Please consider subscribing. I'm Polly C signing out.